All right. What am I doing here? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today in a lot of ways. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So here's my take. Why are we all here? Well, let's start with the system. And maybe you've heard something like it before. But I want to walk you through it the way I see it now. Because I'm not here to rage against the machine. I'm not here to sell you hope in a bottle, that's for sure. I just want to tell you the truth the way it looks from here. So I'm going to start with something simple. What you see isn't the whole story. Not even close. About me, about you, about any of this. Most of us walk through life staring at the tip of an iceberg. You know, obviously that part that's visible. What's loud? What's being sold to us? We see somebody making $1 million a year and we assume success. We see somebody struggling to pay rent and we assume failure. But that's just the tip, right? Just what pokes above the water. But what's beneath? That's the weight. That's the system. And most people never look down. And I was one of those people until I did. So here's the tricky part. That invisible part of the iceberg, it's not made of morality. It's not made of fairness. It's not made of any value whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned. And not values like honesty or hard work. I mean value, the measurement we all silently agree on, where the money flows, where the power sits, where attention goes. It's all downstream from value. So, why don't things change? That's what I've asked, the why. So why don't they? Well, it's not because people are evil. It's not because the system is secretly controlled by a few shadowy hands. Even though that book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, was pretty good. But because the value system, the one underneath the surface, is incredibly efficient and staying alive. Because it rewards itself. It protects itself. It's not broken, actually. It's working exactly as designed. It just doesn't work for everyone. So now we throw in words like equality, equity, and fairness. And on the surface, or at that tip of that iceberg that we're all showing, yeah, it sounds simple. Give everyone the same outcome, or at least the same shot, right? But again, we dig deeper. We follow our way down the tip of the iceberg into those muddy waters. Equal pay? Sure. But equal opportunity? That depends on where you started, what zip code you were born in. Probably the color of your skin could be a potential thing. What your last name sounds like. There's many things we can go through. Culture. We say everyone has the same 24 hours, right? But not everyone has the same oxygen mask. And that's the emotional tip of this iceberg. And it's where it gets human, not just systematic. Most people aren't reacting to money. They're reacting to what money means to them emotionally. Safety, freedom, power, worth. That's why people can have $500 in the bank and feel peace. And others can have 5 million in the bank and still panic. It's not about the number. It's about the story underneath the number. That's the real iceberg. So, let's say you play ball every weekend. You're the best on your local community team, and you love it. And some of you are probably that person. You give it your all. And you say, why shouldn't I be paid like an NBA player? an NHL player, an NFL player. I feel the same joy. I work just as hard. I practice every day. And maybe emotionally, you know what? You're right. But systematically, you don't move the same dollars. Because the value isn't in the game, it's in the market. And that market is dedicated by attention, scale, and leverage. The NBA player isn't better. They're just plugged into different layer of the iceberg. So you're asking, well, how do we change this system? You're getting me. I've heard all this stuff before. And that's the part nobody wants to talk about. Because it's not easy. And it's not fast. You can't just scream, burn the fucking system down and expect a better one to magically grow. And you can't just say, we need a new value system, because value doesn't shift through willpower alone. It shifts through our behavior, through millions of decisions, through what we collectively choose to care about. So here's a story that I heard. I'm not sure where I heard it from, but it's one of those ones that gives you that epiphany moment. So there was a time where tulips were worth more than houses. Can you believe that? So why? Because people decided collectively that tulips were rare and desirable and valuable. It wasn't about logic. It wasn't about emotion. Perception. Perception. Same thing with crypto. Or Beanie Babies. Cabbage Patch dolls at one point when I was a child. Or the ever-present stock market. We assign value. And once enough people believe, the market reacts. So here's where I want to be clear. As clear as I can. I'm not pitching socialism. I'm not pitching capitalism either. I'm saying whatever ism we do choose as a collective society, the only thing that matters is what we value inside the system. If we value extraction, the system extracts. If we value connection, the system connects. If we value, well, human well-being, then that has to be more profitable than destruction. So I know everybody's heard of the bell curve, right? So you've heard of that early adoption. There's the early adopters, the fringe. There's the early majority, the middle. Then the late adopters, the skeptics. And then finally the laggards, the ones who will never change. Most revolutions die in that middle gap because they don't build a bridge. If you can shift the first 15%, I believe, of people, the middle 50% will follow fast. The laggards, they don't matter. It's not about changing everyone. It's about shifting the weight of the iceberg just enough that the tip begins to move. All right, so let's change the scenery up a little bit. Literally, metaphorically, as my neighbor's air conditioner kept turning on. Again, we all value that air conditioning. But honestly, what's the takeaway from all this? And I was getting near the end of my run, and I had to stop actually, because it just hit me. So yeah, here we are. So you've been listening, right, to my voice here outside in my studio, rambling about icebergs, value systems, dragons, whatever, the whole damn machine. And now you're asking me, like I was asking myself in that run that made me stop. All right here, Dark Horse Johnny. Countdown's hit 1. So what the fuck have you done to start this thing? Boom. So I answered myself. Well, I left a system that was eating me alive, man. 30 years, safe, pensioned, locked in, and I fucking walked. Not because I had a better offer, because I knew if I stayed, I'd be gone long before I was dead. Then I started talking, not shouting, talking, building a campfire in this digital space where people like you might stop for a minute and go, hey, wait a second. I've been feeling this too. I didn't start a revolution. I started this channel, a conversation, a promise to stay as real as I can. But then I began making things, little things, videos, chapter stories, reflections, questions, being vulnerable as I could, stories from my life. Not polished, but honest. Sometimes, yes, scripted, but truthful. And here's what I notice. People don't need heroes. They need mirrors. And they don't need leaders. They just need to walk side by side. So if you're hearing this right now and wondering, well, what do I do? Well, you don't need a microphone. You don't even need $1 million. You need one real thing you can do differently tomorrow. This is what it comes down to. Maybe it's growing food. Maybe it's helping a neighbor. Maybe it's sitting down with your kid and talking, really talking. Or maybe it's just refusing to give your best energy to the system that doesn't value your soul. So start there. One quiet rebellion, one seed, one boundary you finally put in place. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm actually doing. And now, the invitation's again, it's on the table. You can walk beside me, build with me, share with me. Not to fix everything overnight, but to show that next person, that it can be done. That there's no other way. We don't need to burn it all down. It's not going to work. It'll just be messy, and people will get hurt. We need just to stop feeding it and start feeding each other. So there you go. For me, that countdown ended when I walked away. So, let's just all start walking together. And do your best, even on a small scale. Start something that you never thought you would start. Do something for somebody that you thought you never could do. We didn't get here from one big bang. We got here one atom at a time. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.